Hello, everyone, and welcome to this pre recorded webinar on tips for motivating middle school students during distance learning. Let me start by telling you that I know raising teenagers is difficult, and adolescence is a time when independence and parental influence clash, primarily because the developmental changes lead teens to seek more autonomy and independence. So they are constantly changing their goals, changing their values, their beliefs. And actually, conflict happens when two people disagree based on their own goals, values, or beliefs. And that means that sometimes it's really hard to know what's going on with our kids. Adolescents who have more conflicts with their parents exhibit more behavioral problems. So they might have lower levels of self esteem, lower levels of well being, and as a result, they struggle at school. And recently, the most common source of conflict between parents and their teenage children during online learning is lack of motivation. And it's true, with remote learning moving into the long term, the mental, emotional, and academic impacts of that shift are likely to be challenging. And research has shown that for many, the new format for their classes has left them with a lack of motivation that may affect their academic performance throughout the term. I'm not going to tell you that I have all the answers today, but hopefully I can provide some strategies that maybe you haven't thought about before to make things a little bit easier. So, with that disclaimer, I'm going to go through the tips that are based on research. Now, when you take all of the research about motivation and think, what is the exit ticket that you can take from all these studies? It turns out that it's pretty simple. We are all motivated to do things when, one, we expect to be successful at them, and two, we value the activity that we're doing. And it's true. Who wants to do things when they think they will fail or not be successful? And we want to do things that matter and that are important to us. Now, one of the tricks for teenagers, as I mentioned, is that the things they value are changing. And sometimes, if not all the times, they are not communicating the things that they value anymore. So that can make it difficult to think about how to have them increase their perceived value of an activity, because it's not always clear. So we will discuss some strategies to use that level of value and also ways that can help your kids feel that they're going to be successful. And if you think about all the tips that I'm going to share, they are all based pretty much on doing one or both of these two things. So, to help students be successful or to have them really see the value in the activities that they're being asked to do at school. And now, when I say activities, I mean homework, projects, attending Zoom sessions, preparing for tests and quizzes, and all of these work related, schoolwork related. And to do so, one of the most important tips that hits on both value and success is setting goal. And the reason it leads to success is that nothing makes you feel like you can be successful as having had some success in the past. So if you set some short-term goals and students are able to achieve those goals, they start to see themselves as learners. And this can be really important in changing their mindset. Now, for middle school students, you don't want to set a goal that's going to take longer than a week. Because even at this age, more than a week is very long. It's a long time to be able to move through. So, if you want to set a goal for the semester, you're going to have to break it into pieces. So there's actually a tangible achievement pretty quickly, and they start to get that feeling of being successful. Now, the other piece you want to do is find ways to know if your child is on track to meet that goal. So if you have a weekly plan, say we're going to read 3 chapters from this book by the end of the week. You should break it into daily goals. So let's say they should read 30 pages per day. In other words, we have to think about a way to monitor progress so that they know if they are on track. And those types of conversations are important to help students build that muscle of being able to think about their own progress and whether they are on track or not. Now, when we talk about setting goals, we don't want to set too many. So keep them few, not more than three. And so you think about short-term goals, a brief number of them, goals that you can actually measure so you know when you have met them. And actually, this is a briefing of what we call SMART goals. Now, if you're interested, we can do later on a presentation on how to set SMART goals. Now, all of this will lead us to the next step, which is celebrate success. So while students do meet their goals, you're going to make sure that you celebrate their success with them. And this can be a variety of things. It can be your tone of voice when you are talking about it. It can be a high five, a hug. And don't think that those are silly for teenagers because it really matters. And it releases the oxytocin hormone or the love hormone, which is responsible for their happiness. Now, I'm going to talk about tangible rewards a bit later, but here we are thinking about ways that we can celebrate with our kids when they meet their goals. And when we talk about celebrate success, we should also think about taking that as a time to reflect. So it's important when students are successful and when students are not successful to think about what were the strategies that helped them to meet their goals, or what were the obstacles that got in the way so that they weren't successful. And how can they think about what might they do differently next time, or what they can repeat next time to be able to have success again. And this leads us to the third tip, which is teaching our kids how to manage roadblocks or obstacles. So sometimes with distance learning, students will get to a place where they are stuck, they just don't know what to do next, and they will get frustrated and emotional. Now, the trick here is that we have to think about ways to manage roadblocks before getting to that point. So when you were talking about setting your goals, your weekly goals, that's the time to talk about what to do when you get stuck. And they might even come up with a list of things that they can refer to. What to do when I get stuck? How do they get help from you if you are available? Now, since most of us are working from home and are always at home, so what are the indicators that you are free now to help them? So, for example, if you're on a call, of course, it's not the right time to ask for help, but they can leave you a note so you can discuss it later on. Or how can they ask their teachers for help? Or how can they find online help? How can they get help from their friends without actually cheating or copying their homework? And maybe just to take a break. And this is one of the good strategies, especially if they are frustrated. So basically, all the strategies that they have and that they can use to manage obstacles and roadblocks before getting into a situation when they don't know what to do. Now, from there, we want to think about emphasizing that effort leads to success. So remember that we talked about the idea of expecting success. But by early teens, a lot of kids already have the perception that they're not good at things. And we want to break these ideas and maybe tell them that, hey, even if you're not naturally good at something, if we keep practicing at it, we'll get better. Now, there are lots of research that talk about the way our brain works. There are cells in our brain, we call them neurons, and when we learn something new, those neurons form new connections with each other. And so what practice does, it helps build those new connections. It's almost like when you're lifting weight, and you can make this analogy that your brain is the muscle, and when you are lifting weights, sometimes it's way too heavy, so you practice and build up your muscles. If you're lifting weights that are not hard for you, you're not building your muscles. The same way, if you are practicing steps, you already know very easy steps. So you're not making those connections in your brain. And we find in the research that when kids start to understand a little bit about actually their biology basis, that actually motivate them to think that they can improve with practice. Now, the fifth tip is to encourage curiosity, and this can be tough with teens because they are constantly changing their interests. So it can take some work to try to figure out what kind of things are they interested in, or how do we help keep them thinking about how the world works. So one thing you can do is actually to model that way of thinking and this curiosity. How to do it? You can start by asking those questions out loud, and this again is one of the most important type of conversations that you should always have with your kids. So, for example, when you're having dinner, you can ask, how come we don't all have the same eye color? And many more interesting questions. And if you are asking those questions and modeling being curious about the world, students will pick up on that and you will be triggering their curiosity. And as you keep on trying and starting interesting conversations, you'll be encouraging that sense of interest and curiosity in the world, because what this does is to increase that value piece that I talked about earlier. So, if learning can help you understand the world and help you understand things you are curious about, then that's going to increase that value and make you more motivated to do the activities related to school. Now, next tip is related to that, which is help establish relevance. If you talk with your kids about school and specific lessons, let's say Arab or the multiplication table or even history, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have already heard your kids saying, when will I ever need to learn this? But it turns out that it's all related again to that value. So, thinking about how something is related to your interest, your goal, or even your dream job, all of those things increase the value of the activity and make students more likely to engage in it. So, thinking about how to establish what is relevant to your kids, you'll have to figure out what are their interests to be able to make those links. And the more you can do that, the better impact you are likely to have on their learning. So, next and finally, we talk a lot about rewards. And a lot of parents will ask, is this bribing my kid? So, a couple of pieces of guidance here. One is we all use rewards. We're not always motivated, and sometimes we need a little boost. So, if it's something that they don't have any interest in doing, a reward can be that little boost that get them started. And once they get started, they can start to find interesting things, they can start to experience success, and they can start to feel themselves as learners. So they really need that little boost to get them to get going, and rewards can definitely help do that. Now, rewards don't have to be tangible. They can be like spending more time on the phone, extending the curfew, having more screen time, even ordering their favorite fast food, anything. Now, I'm not going to encourage you to go for big rewards. They are really not effective. And the secret here is that it shouldn't be something that they either earn or they have no chance of ever earning it again. It should be okay, if you didn't earn it this time, we can set a new goal and you can try to earn it again the next time. So basically, those are some of the big tips and ideas for thinking about how can we help kids be successful and how can we help them value schoolwork, which will lead us, of course, to an increase of their level of motivation. Now, thank you again for watching me. It was really a pleasure preparing and presenting this webinar. And please, if you have any questions really whatsoever, I'm always one email away. Stay safe and see you very soon.